Eleanor Roosevelt had this great quote. She said that poor minds talk about other people, average minds talk about events, but great minds talk about ideas. Welcome to the Take On Everything podcast. All right, guys, what's up? Welcome to the Take On Everything. Tonight, we have a guest. Michael Cook happens to be my brother, retired military, works at a gun range, and he's going to talk to us a little bit about Firearms 101. So for everyone that is thinking about getting a firearm, already has one, or is sort of brand new to the firearm community, we're going to talk a little bit about what does it take to get a firearm, be safe with it, and to be responsible with it. So welcome to the show, Michael.
Oh, thank you. Yes, I'm Michael Cook. I'm, as James said, I'm his brother, and I work at Marc-On Shooting in Lake Hallie, Wisconsin. We're an indoor shooting range. We belt, we sell, train, and
you guys will ship most things, not firearms, right?
we will ship if it's legal in your state. First of all, I want to I am not a lawyer, so you have to obey by all firearm laws in your state and district. So, like Wisconsin, we can have suppressors and cool stuff, and ARs and AKs. In Maryland, not so much.
So guys, ask your local FBI agent. If you don't have one, you're doing it wrong. So ask them.
Just like type a message into your email. They'll read it. They're already looking at your screen. They'll get back to you in a second. Like utilize them. Your taxpayers are already paying for your FBI agent. So just that's a resource. I also recommend them if you're in a car accident or if you have medical malpractice. They know the law. It's their job. They're tracking you on it. So yeah, just type that into your browser. Your FBI agent will definitely come. So I live in Colorado. Can you just like sit me a bazooka? That'd be great.
No, that's a destructive device, and that requires a special tax and forms. And
okay, what if we both agree, fuck the government? Can you do it then?
Yes, in a free country, yes, you would be able to. I could just send you a bazooka.
Nice.
But
that's all you need to know about gun control, guys.
You know the government wants their cut. Like if you're gonna have it, it's fine, but they want their cut of the proceeds. I mean, you know, it's mafia town.
Right. When we get into the whole
that's why it's a little hush 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 hush. We don't tell the government. We don't tell the government, James. Okay. And like we're not gonna buy it online. So it's not like my FBA agent knows. Tom, stop listening to this. Just like log off, take a break, get a coffee.
I hate to break this to you, but we are putting this on the internet right now, Sarah Brooke. So if anybody doesn't know already.
Hey, okay, Tom, I'll see you in a bit. Tom, I think you're going to show up at my apartment and start taking my grenades, but that's as is your right. Okay, so I think we should get like the scary thing out of gun control first, especially with like the liberals are now in charge. They're coming for our guns, Mike.
Yes.
So why does anyone need a firearm? I think is my first question.
A firearm is the last line of defense between you and somebody knocking through your door and invading your life. That's your last line of defense. That's why you need one. No matter if you're black, white, Asian, gay, straight, Christian, Hindu, that's your last line of defense against tyranny. That's tyranny by the government or tyranny by a criminal.
I mean, that's a beautiful part of gun ownership is you can have any advantage or disadvantage physically or mentally or anything like that. But if you try to use that against somebody else and they have a firearm, you guys are on a level playing field at that point. So again, that's beautiful. And I think that's an important thing to have. And I think for the people that don't understand it, it's kind of like, it's almost an elitist point of view. It's like most people that are against gun ownership have never really had to face defending themselves or being in a dangerous situation or a dangerous neighborhood or been subject to criminals, whether they be law enforcement or whether they be criminals trying to take your stuff or kill or murder you. They haven't really been face to face with that. So I think that's something that is missing from the equation. I think that's an important thing that we as citizens should have.
Right. Yep.
You know, when seconds count, the police are always minutes away, aren't they? So I think being able to rely on yourself, rely on your family is such a benefit to have. But then also to everyone that hasn't, that's so like anti-gun, I don't think they've ever shot one. And like just go to the range, rent one, okay? Just like it's an investment in yourself. It's fine. Shoot one, you will walk out of there the most powerful person in the world. Like, holy shit, that's like a new level of just like confidence shooting a firearm. You before you pass judgment on gun ownership, you have to shoot one at least 3 times. That's the rule.
Yeah,
I
I
stuck
like
with 3.
I like that rule.
They
Mike,
won't
have you
want
ever,
to, but like at least 3 times.
Mike, have you ever
Right.
like
I mean,
first time like interacted with somebody that's never shot a firearm and they come to Marc-On Shooting and they say, "Hey, I'm gonna give this a shot." What is usually their reaction once you get them in there? You know?
usually they're super excited. They're nervous because it's a firearm. We like to start off brand new gun owners with 22 small light recoiling. Heck, if I'm there, I'll throw my suppressor on it. So it's more like a pellet gun at that point, and it's a super soft shooting, handgun. We also offer classes. That's the great thing about Marc-On is that you have never shot a gun. Well, we have a class for that. That way, when you go and step into the range for the very first time, you are with an instructor who's just sat 3 hours teaching all the fundamentals, all the basics, and we've now empowered you to take that training and go and shoot a gun for the first time without being scared. But yeah, for the first time, you see people that are like excited, some are nervous. I've seen people, get it, super empowered. Like now I can do it. Now I understand. I used to hate guns. Now I don't. So because I've actually shot one.
Yeah, and that's a beautiful thing about firearms. And like you said, the 22, allowing people to experience it without that scary, because I feel like most people's exposure to guns is like TV, right? So it's loud, scary, blood everywhere, like people just fall on the ground. Like that seems scary to me. If I had never held a weapon in my life, I would be terrified.
Right. One thing I like to say is your boyfriend, husband, uncle, grandpa who's not a firearms instructor should not be teaching you how to shoot a firearm. We've heard lots of horror stories where, like, I know a woman who will not shoot a firearm anymore because her boyfriend at the time gave her a 10 gauge shotgun, did not tell her how to hold it properly because they wanted to see the reaction, and now she's afraid. So if you want to shoot a firearm, get actual firearms training from a licensed firearm instructor, because that's the best way you're going to learn it. Unless you trust this person, if you've seen them, you've seen them at the range themselves and they're a trustworthy person. But most don't let Tom, Dick, and Jerry freaking teach you because they're not going to lead you the right way. A lot of them just want to see get a reaction. They'll put a 44 Magnum in your hand and watch you drop it, which is bad firearms handling skills. So
And then put that shit on YouTube for likes and reacts. That's such a dick move, in my opinion. Like if you actually want to help somebody, you don't just put a huge, caliber, round firearm in their hand and then don't even tell them and just record it like for laughs. I feel like I've seen so many videos and yeah, they're kind of funny to somebody who shot a weapon before. They're not funny to the person holding that gun. They are not funny. They're dangerous things that need to be respected. You can't just treat them like that. So that's a really good point.
Right. I mean, let's go back to when you and Jonathan came to the farm out here in Wisconsin. We didn't take you with the biggest freaking rifle I had. We started you off small and we worked your way up. And when you felt comfortable, we moved on to the next thing and to the next thing. And then we took you to Marc-On and you shot a machine gun. So
which is pretty great, by the way. A lot of licensed gun dealers and indoor ranges are actually legally allowed to own automatic weapons, and you are allowed to shoot them in there, which is kind of a thrill. As someone who has experienced that, it's kind of a wonderful experience. So it was pretty cool. So definitely check it out. So Mike, you talked about 22.
Wait, now I have to know what James started out on. What
James
was it?
started out with my
Ruger
Ruger 1020, Ruger 1022.
Little
Ruger
22.
was suppressed. It was a suppressed Ruger 1022. He did amazing. He's a cook.
What can I say?
Of course.
And then he shot AR. Then he shot the AR, my AK, CZ Scorpion. He's had it all. Mosin Nagant's M1 Garands.
How'd you feel, James? Like walking around with a machine gun? How'd you feel?
I felt like a badass. I'm just saying, like, I wanted to go in there and be like, say hello to my little friend, you know. But the gun range owner didn't really feel too great about that. No, I'm teasing. I was responsible. They make you show your
Yes.
ID and sign a bunch of waivers and everything, so you can't be too idiotic. But I definitely felt like Scarface action in there. So shot a Sten 9mm 50 round magazine, which was great. So it was a lot of fun. It was pretty great. So Mike, what you have a 22 sample for us?
I do have a 22. This is a 22 sample.
Oh, it's like a little baby round.
It's a little baby round, not much powder. It's a rimmed rim cartridge. In comparison is the popular 9mm.
Ooh.
So this is what most people shoot in their concealed carry, and that's what we try to start people on.
It's way less scary.
Yes, way less scary.
Cool.
So, yep, 22 is what we try to start people off with. It is, as you can see, it's not very intimidating. It gets you the fundamentals, and before we even teach you, even before you go out to the range, you should learn the rules of gun safety. Pretty much treat a firearm as if it's always loaded. So there's a firearm right here. I'm gonna treat it as it's loaded. So somebody hands you a firearm, I'm gonna drop the mag, make sure it's clear, make sure nothing in the chamber. And then you always want to keep it pointed away from somebody, keep your finger off the trigger. So keep your finger off the trigger at all times. And also when you're firing, you know what you're shooting at was beyond what you're shooting at. So if you're in an indoor range, that's kind of taken care of because there's a big steel wall where you're shooting at. So beyond your paper target is a steel wall. Out here on a farm or on a public range, you gotta know what's beyond that. And the last rule of firearm safety is don't let the government take your firearms. So that's the last rule. And you can do that by calling or contacting your senator, or join a firearms group like the Gun Owners of America. They are big advocates that will try to keep the government from taking your firearms. So
or sinking a boat.
No, if it's time to start sinking your firearms in a boat, it's time to use them.
Okay, so I get a 22. I've practiced with that. I feel comfortable. What's my next gun?
Your next gun? The next gun should be okay. So what's the purpose of this firearm? Is this purpose? Are you
to disrupt a government entity?
No, that should
okay,
not
to
be.
No, we're dumping to the end right here.
Okay, yeah. So I'll put it in like relative terms. I'm 22. I live alone in Denver, in the heart of the city. There are always like people screaming outside. There's always altercations. It's scary to be a woman in the city.
So you want to fire for self-defense?
Yeah, but I also want people to take me seriously. And something about a 22 just doesn't scream you're in danger of your life, So,
well, the way I look at firearm, the firearm for me is a defensive thing, not an offensive thing. So I might share a few firearms on Facebook and with my friends and stuff, but I have them for a defensive purpose. And I don't go around my house with a freaking AR or AK strapped on my back to show, hey, I have firearms. I don't do that. So a firearm where you're at a home defense scenario. So you're looking at a 9mm, a 45, a 40 handgun, an AR-15 shooting a 5.56 is a good gun. The best way to know what gun is good for you is to take a class and see what would work for you. So go find it, either go and rent a handgun, go rent a AR, try it, work with it, get some training with it. You can, I'll plug Marc-On again. We do that too. You don't have a firearm, we will rent you the firearm and we will sell you the ammunition to fire that firearm. And then we will have an instructor for you to teach you how to use that firearm. And if you like it, guess what? We might have that firearm for sale on the wall. And that's how that process works. Because what might look pretty in your hands is not going to look pretty when it flies out of your hands because you can't handle it. So we have a lot of that. We see a lot of people who buy their wife this dinky little gun for concealed carry, but she can't handle it because she didn't pick it out herself. She didn't shoot it herself. And the first time she shoots it, is because her husband or her boyfriend, or her cop buddy had said, "You're a woman or you're a small person. You should have this tiny little gun." No, go to a range, rent what you want. Tell a lot of these shops, not just Marc-On, but a lot of these shops have qualified personnel. They'll say, "What do you want a gun for?" "I want a self-defense." "What do you want? Do you want a long gun or you want a handgun?" And they'll go through the whole freaking 9 yards with you, and they will, they'll take you, they'll let you rent it. Like Marc-On, you can rent any freaking firearm you want that we have on the wall and train with it. We can do that. So that's how you find out. So like I said, a gun for me is a defensive option. It's always a defensive option. You defend against tyranny from the government. You defend against tyranny of a burglar coming to your house. You defend against, I have coyotes out here that like to get the livestock. I defend my livestock from them. So to me, a firearm is a defensive mechanism. Also for collecting, for fun, for everything else, but that's the main reason why. So.
That's such a great point. Speaking from personal experience, my first handgun that I shot was a 45, which was way too big for me. And I just got my nails done. They were French manicured, perfect, shine to the gods. Okay, perfectly coffin rounded off. I was chef's kiss. And I shot it and I broke my nail because like I didn't have the instructor. I didn't have the training. It was just let's show up and like let's just do it. Let's see what happens. And like
right.
That scary experience, that like lack of training, that lack of initiative, that lack of knowledge can really turn people off from guns and like give them a schema point of view that's detrimental not only to like their own like life enjoyment, because guns are actually kind of fun. Like I'll be the first one to admit it. They're kind of fun, but then also they give you a sense of power within your own life. Like you don't have to rely on anybody. But that being said, guys, I do have to go. I love you both. Like this was so exciting. I was really interested in this conversation. But you're going to do great. You're going to nail it. I'm Sarah Brooke, Princess Riviette. I love you. Mwah. I have to go. I'm sorry.
All right, kick ass on the internet. Kick ass technique. Okay, so Mike, let me just like go over the gun rules of safety real quick. You touched on this earlier, so let me see if I got this right. So treat all firearms as if they're loaded, right? And obviously that makes sense because you hear all these stories about whether these kids like get a hold of weapons and they shoot their brother, which is always tragic, or somebody like, out hunting in the woods, end up shooting somebody. And so it's accidental hunting death. You hear all these like, unnecessary deaths, which is always tragic. And it's really stems from that number one rule of safety. So number two, always keep your firearm pointed in a safe direction. Same exact reason. Treat it like it's loaded and point it somewhere where you're not going to hurt anybody, even if it is loaded. Because starting out, I may not know how to clear a weapon. I should. That's something I should know how to do, but I may not be comfortable with it 100%. Somebody tells me it's cleared and it's not. If anyone doesn't know, cleared means, the chamber is empty. There's nothing in, chamber.
Magazine out of the firearm. And then this is a 9mm pistol, rack the slide to look in there, and you can look down the barrel and see if there's nothing in there. That means a cleared firearm. And if you want to make sure it's cleared, just have it open. So cleared up firearm is magazine, a source of magazine out, and it's the action is open so you can see that there is no round in the chamber at all. So,
and then number three is keep your finger off the trigger. Right.
Yes.
So again, treat it like it's loaded. Even after you've cleared it, all this stuff, keep your finger off the trigger unless you're ready to fire. Number four, know where your target is and what's beyond that. You talked about that. Sometimes in the range, it's pretty good because you have that steel plate at the end with your target, your paper target and all that stuff. So it's really designed that way. But I mean, if you put your gun sideways, you're aiming at the guy next to you. So know what's in front of your gun. And lastly, don't let the government take your firearms. That's a big one.
Right.
I think we touched on that a little bit.
I mean, just back on the gun safety thing, act like your barrel is a lightsaber and everything it crosses, it's going to destroy. And you can say, well, my gun's not loaded. Act like your muzzle is a lightsaber and whatever it comes in contact will be destroyed. So don't wave that means no horseplay with guns. Act like it's freaking loaded. Act like it's ready to kill because that's its job. Its job is to is to shoot deadly rounds downrange in your defense.
Yeah,
So
and that's so important because like if you treat it like it's loaded all the time, then when you're ready to use it, that is what you will be doing. You're not going to act like your brain's not going to be like, is it loaded? Is it not loaded? Because in your brain, it's always loaded, which is both important for when it's not loaded and for when you're ready to use it, because your brain needs to always be in that mode. If that firearm is in your hands, it needs to be acting that way. All right. So again, I really wanted to hit that rules of safety because that is number one, no matter what you're doing. So we talked a little bit about why somebody wants to have a gun. We kind of, joked a little bit about, tyrannical government, hopefully that's not the case. But mostly it's for self-defense and personal defense. What are some of the weapons out there? We talked about a 22, we talked about a 9mm. What are some of the weapons out there that somebody may want to use for self-defense, personal defense, home defense, and, kind of give a rundown of the types of weapons, when they're good ideas, and maybe what you should look at as a starter, as starting out?
It depends on your home scenario. Most people would start out, I would suggest start with a handgun. Not either a 380 is be your minimum threshold of a caliber. 22 is great for training, but 380 is better for home defense. And this is my personal belief. I would prefer to go with a more common caliber of 9mm. That's what a lot of law enforcement uses. That's what the military uses, is a 9mm. So a good handgun is best because it is good for up to, if you're good, 75 yards. It's good for longer than that, but that's a good threshold, is about 75 yards. After that, you can go get a shotgun, a pump shotgun or a semi-auto shotgun with either buckshot, which is looks like a little grape shot, or a slug, which is a big, huge lead slug that comes out of it. There's our home. They make a lot of companies make home defense rounds for that, like Fiochi and like that. And then your last decision will be your rifle. Your rifle can be used for home defense. A lot of ammo manufacturers make rounds for home defense, called fragmentable rounds, so you don't have to worry about it piercing your wall and going through. That's the thing about as you step up. So if you go from pistol, like most 9mm is right at the sonic level, at the speed of sound, so it's not going super fast. So it won't go through a whole lot of your house, and especially the hollow points and the self-defense rounds that are made for that. And then as you go up, then you have the shotgun. Shotgun, it's not going to penetrate that much. It's going to, you don't want something like, if you miss an intruder, you don't want that round hurting innocent bystanders. And as you go up to the rifle rounds, they're going a lot faster, and they will go through. You get a big freaking rifle round, it can go through a lot of walls. So that's why the whole point of knowing what your target is and know what's beyond it. That's a law. That's one of the rules, is knowing that. So I would start out with a pistol, get some training, then get either a rifle or a shotgun and get some training on both of those, and know what the ammo you're going to use, and because there's different ammo for different things. Defending, like me, I defend against coyotes. I'm using a rifle to shoot out to 100 yards. If I'm going to be home, I'm either going to my pistol or my shotgun, whatever's closest. So that's how I put it. So
yeah, no, that's a really great synopsis. So pistol, learn at your range, get comfortable with it, bring one home. So pistols sometimes, like I know in Maryland, pistols are a little weird. As far as like laws and regulations and stuff. What are some common things that somebody should look at when they go to the range, they find a pistol they like, maybe a 9mm or something like that, something not too crazy of a kick, not too scary, you get real comfortable with it. If you want to buy one and bring it home, what are some common things that you should look for legally that you want to stay? Because, obviously you don't want to grab one off the black market and get in trouble for that. Because they they don't play around with that. You go to jail for a long time for that stuff. So how do we stay legal but also bring a handgun to the home for self-defense?
Well, I can only speak from the not Maryland, but the Wisconsin experience. Wisconsin is so what happens is, the buying process is you see what farmer you want. You've either have done training at the range, or you've watched a lot of reviews on it on your favorite YouTuber, or you got some knowledge of it, you've done some of your research. Do your research before you buy any firearm, because this is a long-term, this is what you're going to do to defend yourself with your life. So it's a so do your research, and then rent or borrow a firearm, and then use it at the range. Then train with it if you can. Then I would say finalize that decision. Say, this is what I want for this reason, and then you go to the shop. You finally make that last second. You go to the shop, and you're going to tell, hopefully they have it in stock at the gun range. If not, then you order it. When the firearm finally comes in and it's ready for you to own here in Wisconsin, you fill out 2 forms. You fill out a state form, and you fill out a federal 4473. Those are background checks. So when you are told that you don't have to fill out a background check to own a firearm, yes, you do. And most every legal transaction that happens at a gun store, you have to fill out a 4473. And I'll give an example to be put up. 4473 is a background check. So it does your name, your address, your maiden names, you put your social on there, and it pretty much goes to the FBI. They do an instant background check and see if you have any felonies on your record, or if you have any any assault or batteries or drug charges, because those will deny you a firearm. If you get that background check done, again, you're getting a background check done, then the owner of the shop will hand you your firearm at that time. After you've done everything, it's all paid for, the form is done, then you can go home and take it with you. But once you have it, you should go back to the gun store, especially if it's a training facility, and do some more training with it.
Yeah, it sounds like that's the key, is like when you have a firearm, the firearm is only as good as you are with it, right? So, so definitely, get some training. And honestly, I was surprised, in just talking to you, the amount of the different classes that a lot of firearm sellers and firearm instructors will offer in-house, just to get you comfortable with the firearm. And they're really not that expensive. And, you really get a lot of bang for your buck to, intentional pun right there.
I mean, I'll plug Marc-On again. We have an intro to firearms class. It is $75. It's $75, and it covers all the basics. You can rent a fire, and then on top of that, you can pay for rent a firearm. But it does all the basics. You come in that shop knowing nothing. In fact, you come in that shop with no gun and no eye protection, no ear protection, and we will provide that. The shop will provide it. If they're a good, reputable shop that has training, they will provide that. They'll either rent it to you or provide it to you. So then you walk out with the knowledge of what you're going to look for in your next firearm. So if it's a reputable shop that has training, they will provide that kind of class for you. So that way you're not leading you astray. A good gun shop was not going to sell you a gun for sake of selling you a gun. They want you to sell you a gun that is for what you need.
Yeah. So, I mean, so if I walk in and I say, hey, I don't have a gun, I've never fired a gun. I mean, if I ask you, hey, what do you think? Are you going to like sort of walk me through it? Like, as somebody working at a gun shop, are you going to walk me through like, hey, what are you looking to do? What are you looking to get? Here's, recommendations.
Right. Yeah. If somebody comes in and says they fired a gun, I would first offer them, hey, what's your goal? We had a young man come in the other day, buy his first gun from our store. We're very honored to have him buy his first gun ever from our store. And he wanted a military historical firearm. So we sold him an M1 Garand that we had on the wall. He had fired long guns before, so he already had that basic knowledge, but his purpose was not to defend himself. His purpose was to have a collectible historical firearm. So that was kind of an easy sell. He saw it, he wanted it, and we had it, and we sold it to him. And he did a 4473, and he did a background check. So, but yeah, we have the new pistol owner come in. We always offer the class, because it's what I can tell you in 5 minutes. It would not really benefit you. What would benefit you is actually taking a class and knowing because you might say, well, my husband has a 45 1911 that works great for him, and I've shot it like twice and it feels good. But does it really feel good, or is that because you're just in that area and that's the only gun you've had experience with? So that's why we offer the rental wall, so you can try out different firearms.
Yeah, I
To
think it's
answer your
like
question.
that's the point of this podcast specifically. This episode is like to say, hey, this is not a end all be all. Here's everything you need to know about firearms, but here's the things
Right.
you need to know about finding the information about firearms
Right.
and learning about it. So it's not like, hey, I listened
Right.
to an episode, now I'm an expert.
Right.
Because that's not going to get
Yeah.
you
No.
anywhere.
No. I mean, there are a lot of resources. A lot of like YouTube channels are really good. It's like anything, triple check the resources that they're giving out. So if you see a firearm that you want, watch some reviews on it. You know, like that. That's the first thing. You want to buy a gun, do some research. What's the guns for? If it's for home defense, well, go watch. Like there's a few YouTube channels who do like the torture test. They'll do like a 5,000 round test, and if this guy is freaking pumping 5,000 rounds to the gun that you're interested in, and it fails, do you really want to trust your life to that gun? So you can use that as a research tool. It can be entertaining, but it's also a research tool. And then, like I said, then go back and find a friend that has that firearm. If you have friends in your life or family in your life that are gun people, they have probably more than one gun, and they probably have something similar to what you want. Like I said, going back to the woman and the man has a 45 and the wife thinks she likes it, but she wants to try something else. I'm sure there's a friend out there that has a 9mm she can try, or she can go to a gun range and rent one. And then, like I said, get the training on how to properly use that firearm. Pistols are different than rifles, and rifles are different than shotguns. So get the training, and then you take all that information. So you've done your research, you've rented and borrowed, you've done some training, and then you're going to, like I said, you're going to reiterate, you're going to go make that final decision, and then you go to the shop. So that's just the basics. I mean, you can change it the way you want to. I've seen people come in, they'll take the class, and they kind of have an idea. Like they'll rent a gun. This has really worked for them. They've shot their 50 to 100 rounds, and they said, "This is what I want," and they walk out of firearm. They've done their own research in their head by actually using the firearm. So, and so if it's a reputable shop, they're not going to sell you a home defense gun that's a piece of junk. So
They'll at least tell you about it. Yeah,
right.
and I think that's an important piece. Is like, I think a lot of people, they don't want to be embarrassed by asking questions, and they don't want to be embarrassed by admitting they're new at something. So just kind of getting rid of that stigma and saying, no, this is encouraged.
Right. We have people come all the time say, I have a stupid question. And I tell them the only stupid question you can ask is the one you don't ask.
Yeah.
Like
that's
for
very
real.
True. That's very true.
I mean, if you don't know what between a 40 to 45 is, that's fine. 10 years ago, I didn't know what the difference between a 40 to 45 was, or what difference between a 5.56 or a 7.62 or a 12 gauge slug to a buckshot. I didn't know any of that stuff. Somebody had to sit down and do the Genesis training on me. They had to sit there and begin. This is the beginning, and this is how things are. And then you just build your knowledge from there. Yeah. So there is no stupid gun question. There is no stupid gun question, except in this pandemic right now with all the crazy 2020, 21 thing, going to a shop right now and asking for a 9mm. Don't do it, because there is none.
That's the only stupid question, is asking for something that is not there. So guys, don't be afraid to ask questions. Find somebody that is knowledgeable, that you're comfortable with, or just go to a gun shop. They're probably more than happy to help you. One, because hopefully if they do a good job, you may purchase something from them. And two, they really just don't want people to die from firearms, because that's bad for their business. And most of them really actually care. Most of them do care. But even if they don't, they have a financial incentive to make sure that you are safe and people you're around are safe, because it directly affects their business. So we've kind of gone through the gun rules of safety, the types of guns generally that you may want for home defense and why you may want them. So one of the other pieces is ammunition. Like you said, buckshot and slugs and 9mm and home defense stuff. Right. What are some of these terms mean, and when would I want them and when would I not want them?
But there's usually three. There's usually ball ammunition, which you're going to use for training. It's just usually the cheapest. It's just ball ammo. It's just what you use to train, go in the backyard and go plinking with. That's your basic ammo. Then you have what they call, I'll show you a ball round. So this is a rifle ball round. It's just a copper jacketed ball round Nothing special about it. This is good for plinking and training with. Then your next one you're going to do is what they call a self-defense round, or a hollow point. And this is good for homes because it expands. It's supposed to expand. So it won't go through a whole lot of stuff, and then it will go, hit the person that's attacking you, and you can put him down, put the threat down. And then the final one is a higher quality ammo. That's match grade ammo. That is money for your competition or your really hardcore hunters have that. So that's covers your, and those 3 basic types cover your rifle and your pistol. Usually they come in those 3 types. Like I said, there are wildcats, there are different ones. There's fragmentable ones. There's just different weird not obsolete, but just different rounds they're coming out with. And the whole round thing is changing all the time. With shotguns, the most available ammo out there is 12 gauge bird shot, which is good for hunting birds or hunting or shooting clay pigeons or just target practice. And then you have buckshot, which is kind of like ball bearings, and usually there's 7 or 8 of them to a shell, and that's for home defense. Some states you can use it for hunting. And then the last amount, and that, so birdshot, you have a wide pattern like this, and then buckshot you're going to have kind of like this, and then you have a slug, which is pretty much a big freaking be like that big. It's a big freaking round.
Big hunk of metal.
It's a big hunk of lead. That's what it is.
Right.
It's a big hunk of lead, and that's usually for hunting and for home defense. And what you carry in your firearm for what purpose is because you did either the training or you did the research on what you need for your situation. So you can use any of them for self-defense, but the self-defense ammo that's made for self-defense is going to be a better asset for you.
Yeah, it does. I'm sure less damage to your home or your neighbors or, going into the other room. So that's why the different ammo is important, is to kind of take, what is your goal? Is your goal to target, shoot, or plink, as you said? Or is it really,
Right.
is this your home defense ammo? So being able to differentiate that and keep that where you need to keep it, when you need to have it. So we talked a little bit about how to get a gun, what the different types of gun, different types of ammo. So concealed carry, is that something that somebody new to guns should be looking at? And if it is, what are some ways to look at the laws, or whether it's smart, or what you should do, or just give us a lay of the land for concealed carry? I know we hear that term a lot.
Right. So I'll start off with follow your local laws, and I can only do what I know here in Wisconsin. I do have a concealed carry permit in Wisconsin. First of all, if you're going to conceal carry, go back to training. I will always go back to training. You need, some states don't require any training. Some states require, like Wisconsin, they just require you to have the hunter safety program. And that's all you need to get your concealed carry license. But that doesn't give you the laws. There's a lot of different laws. Like, I'll give you a free lesson here. In Wisconsin, you cannot carry concealed or carry on your person if you have had a alcoholic beverage. So if you are with your family and you decide you want to have that beer, you legally can't have a beer and carry. So you either have to decide at that point, okay, do I have this beer and be not, and that's a risk you take. But you're not going to know that until you take a class and you get the training and the laws put down. Marc-On Shooting in Lake Hallie, I'll just plug them again. They have that class, and it's $75 for that class. So there's also situational training. We have, so just because you have it just now, okay, so now we say you have a firearm, you got your concealed carry, and you're carrying on your hip. Are you really prepared for an aggressive situation? Probably not. So now we're going back to training. You need to go back to training, take a situational class. I keep going to repeat it. You need training, and not because I work for a training program, because I've seen what happens when you don't have training. There's enough. You can YouTube it, and you'll find out what happens if you don't have training and you would attempt anything, like using a bandsaw or using any power tool. If you don't have training, you have no basic knowledge of what's going to happen, or you not even watch a video, even a YouTube video. Like if you hit a knot with a circular saw, what's going to happen? Well, you're not going to know until either you've done it or you've been trained how to do it, or you see it on YouTube. So you have some basic knowledge. Like same goes with the firearm. You're going to, and YouTube is not a big, it's a good tool. It is not a good teacher. Only way I would say is take a self-defense class, a class that does situational awareness training. Like, hey, it is dark in your house and all you've done your entire shooting life is shot at the indoor range in the climate control in the lights. And now it's 2:00 in the morning and you're tired and somebody just broke your door down. What do you do? Well, if you have no training,
I can't just take like one basic intro class and then just call it a day.
No, you can't. You can't do that. So no, you can't do that. You have to train for that. So just like as they say, with great power comes great responsibility. Well, carrying a firearm is it's a power. It's an equalizing power against those who want to put tyranny on you, whether, like I said, the government or from criminals. And the only way to be effective with it is to get training and be able to use it. So like get some training and then practice. Yes, firearms are fun. I know this is a very serious thing. I'm serious with the training. Yes, you can have fun, just go outside and plink. But also just if you take a training class, practice it. Practice what they taught you. And that's what it is. And then last but not least, I want to give another plug into USCCA. They are a self-defense insurance. So if you happen to have a self-defense situation where you have to use your firearm or you have to use a knife or anything, they will, if you have their insurance, they will cover you. It's like having car insurance, but for self-defense. They'll like pay for your lawyers, out of work, stuff that your car insurance won't pay for car damages or whatnot. They will cover that up to about $1 million in policy. So I would go to USCCA, and if you're going to carry conceal, or you're going to carry for help self-defense, that would be the last step I would do. Once you get your concealed carry, that card comes in, you call USCCA and you get that self-defense insurance, and it's not that expensive. It's less than car insurance. It's like, I think I have the mid-tier and it's $45 for me and my wife.
So you keep saying USCCA. What about like NRA? Does that do the same thing? Like I hear NRA, people go NRA. Tell me about NRA versus USCCA difference. Why one's better than the other? Should you be part of one, both? Give it to me. Like I don't know anything about either one of those.
I'll just say this: the NRA is going bankrupt. They just filed for bankruptcy. So, do you really want that?
They're not going to be much help either way.
Right. Yeah. And then, I have my whole different thing on the NRA.
But do they do insurance? Like if you part of the NRA?
NRA does. They do insurance, but they don't do as much as insurance. So I don't know all the different levels of insurance, but from the research I did when I got my insurance like 3 years ago. So USCCA, like I said, they'll cover. So when you get into a firearms incident, not only do they do criminal court, you have to go to civil court, because the person you shot, he might not be dead. So he's going to sue you. Yes, he's the bad guy and he's the criminal coming to your house, but he can still sue you, or his family can sue you. Well, USCCA will help you cover those lawyers, and your days off work from that, kind of like Aflac pays when you're sick. USCCA will cover your lost wages up to a certain point. Damages to your property, damages to your car, they will cover all that for you. So they cover a lot. They're a big umbrella group. And for, like I said, for $45, that way, this is why I tell people it's better to have it, because when you go in a self-defense scenario, you don't have to worry. You're not hesitating when you're defending yourself going, oh, what do I do after I pull this trigger? Because once you pull the trigger, you follow there's a card they give you. You call the police, or not the police, call 911. You say you have a medical emergency at such address, and then you hang up, and then you call USCCA, and they will get your lawyer for you. So, and it's a self-defense lawyer. It's not the lawyer you would get if you had no insurance, the guy who's on the government payroll. No, you get a USCCA certified self-defense gun lawyer.
That's actually really important. I think that's something that most people don't even know about. They know, or at least have a cursory knowledge of different types of weapons, when to use them, difference between a shotgun and a pistol. Maybe get some training is about as far as people go. But actually having insurance is huge. Like you said, you have homeowners insurance, you have health insurance, you have car insurance, but you should also have self-defense insurance just in case you actually do have to. You're in a situation where you may actually have to use deadly force. There's a lot of legal stuff you got to wade through,
Right.
and you can't do that as a first time.
Right. And so in USC, it doesn't cover just firearms. If you use this glass to defend yourself, they'll cover it. If you use this bath bomb to throw at somebody and you hurt them and something happens, they will cover you. They will cover you. It's for self-defense. They're a self-defense insurance, not just a firearm insurance. So if you see this podcast and you don't think, hey, guns are not for me, hey, that's fine. But at least try to get USCCA insurance to cover for when you do have to take the pool stick and hit somebody over the head and they're knocked out and they're bleeding on your floor. Then you're still covered. So.
Yeah, that's a great point, because I feel like you always hear these stories of, somebody breaking into somebody's house and they get shot or beat or something like that. And then the homeowner gets sued and or charged and they go to jail. So simple steps like this can really prevent a lot of, even though it's not something you really foresee in your future, nobody really foresees getting broken into or having somebody attack them. So this is one of the things that adds a little bit of peace of mind, and make sure you don't leave your family hanging because, you had to defend them and now you're in jail or something like that, or you owe $1 million, something insane like that. So no, that's actually a really important thing. I think if anyone listens to this episode and takes one thing from it, make sure you look into insurance, self-defense insurance, because it's not something to play around with.
Yes.
So Mike, we talked a lot about, different types of guns, safety, insurance, which I thought was really important, get training. What are some final thoughts as we wrap up? What are some final thoughts about first time gun owners? What should they need to know? What should they look for? What should they be aware of, as, someone looking to get their first firearm?
First thing I would look for, get something that is in a common caliber, that is in common usage, because there's actually laws that were defended by the Supreme Court of having firearms of common usage, like an AR and an AK and like your Glocks and stuff like that. So that's what I would do. Go out and just try it. Don't be afraid. Don't be afraid to ask questions. Ask around. Ask the people at the gun shop. Don't be scared of it. A gun is a tool. That's how it's not a living thing. I've had this handgun next to me all night and it has done nothing but what I wanted it to do. A firearm won't do nothing. If you follow the rules, the four basic gun rules, and then on top of that, don't let the government take your firearms. A gun is just inanimate objects. This gun's been sitting here all day long. So don't be afraid of it. Find out what you want. Find out, just get some basic knowledge. You don't need to be an expert. You don't need to go into a gun store and say, I know everything about firearms because I've watched YouTube and podcasts and all that fun stuff. No, go in there not knowing much and then try to walk out with some knowledge, and hopefully a firearm. So you're not going to know until you try it. And I would just say, just pretty much kind of follow what we've talked about in this podcast, get some training, get some training. That's my biggest thing. If I take anything from this podcast, get some training on what you want to do.
Number 1, get training. Number 2, get training. Number 3, get training. Yes. And number 4, get insurance. Okay. Those are the rules to first time gun ownership. Lots of training, lots of questions, get your insurance, protect yourself and your family. Get out there and make sure that you have the capability and the ability to defend yourself, defend your family, defend your home. If necessary. Hopefully that's not the case, but it's better to have it. Be safe than sorry. Mike, thanks for walking us through this gun ownership 101. You've been a great help, giving us a lot of information. I especially like the insurance thing. I think that's an important thing that I didn't know until we had talked about that. And I think that's an important thing for everyone to know, because that is a lifesaver. Mike, thanks again for joining the show.
My pleasure.
and hopefully we'll have you back for maybe a 102 course or something like that.
Yeah, well, we can do 102. We've got, because yes, just anything you can get: suppressors, short barrel rifles, short barrel shotguns, machine guns. We'll talk about that later in another podcast. But yes, you can own them. But follow your local laws. And I'm not a lawyer.
That is tier 2. He is not a lawyer, but he is telling you the inside scoop on how to get your first gun. So Mike, we're signing off. I'm going to give you a chance to like plug everything. So what do you want to plug? You want to plug, what's it called? Marc-On? Go ahead.
Marc-On Shooting in Lake Hallie. We are an indoor gun shop, pro shop. We can take care of everything from your training needs to your firearm needs to your gunsmithing needs. We also do, we're one of the few certified Cerakote applicators in state of Wisconsin. And we can do everything from, rent you a gun, sell you a gun, you can break the gun, and then you can get the gun fixed, get the gun painted, and then go back and train with the gun and then go home with the gun. We do all in house. We're a veteran owned. Dan Marc-On is a veteran, and most of the staff are veterans themselves. So come to Marc-On and get your training on.
Awesome. And real quick, that insurance was, say that again.
USCCA. They're also they're based out of Wisconsin as well. But they do cover the entire United States. So, but their office is located in Wisconsin.
Awesome. All right, guys. Yep. Check out Marc-On Shooting in Wisconsin. Also check out USCCA for the insurance piece. So yeah, call up Marc-On. I'm sure they'll be happy. You guys will be happy to talk to anybody that wants to call and just ask questions, right? Yeah, just give them a shout.
Yes.
They have a Facebook page, right? So I'll link the Facebook page. Dan does a live stream periodically. Is that right?
He does a live stream on the one page on every Friday at 9:30 Central Time, and then he does another one on Sundays. So around like 9-10 o'clock.
Awesome. Well, we will link to both of those things. Check out their page. They've got a lot of great information. Mike, again, thanks for being on. And yeah, guys, check it out.